Yeah, thank you, Asfar, for inviting us. This mini cooperation has been a while in the making, and we're very happy that we were finally able to organize the talk. I know we've been like talking about it, and then obviously COVID happened and everything got mixed up. But yeah, my name is Tatjana Milovanović. I'm program director of Post-Conflict Research Center, or for easier remembrance, PCRC. We are a women-led peace-building non-governmental organization based in Sarajevo, but working throughout Bosnia and the Western Balkans, and we're dedicated to restoring a culture of peace and preventing violent conflict in the region, which is a very ambitious mission. As a grassroots organization, we are dedicated to promoting alternatives to divisive narratives in our region, developing peace education programs and curriculums that sort of supplement the absence of these topics in formal education, as we know, and also developing innovative ways for commemoration and remembrance of war crimes and genocide that took place in former Yugoslavia. How do we do this? We do this by utilizing new media and documentation technologies, different artistic methods, film and photography, which is also why we will today screen one of our documentary movies for you. As a civil society organization, we sort of tasked ourselves with finding ways to best complement and supplement the necessary work that our governments and other institutions are failing to do or having trouble to do, especially in the area of dealing with the past and transitional justice. And sort of the inspiration for this work is twofold. One is that our work tries to honor victims and survivors of the Bosnian War and genocide, as well as their heroic fight and the heroic fight of survivors and later families for justice and recognition. And then secondly, our inspiration comes from the young people we encounter in our work daily, who sort of wish and are trying to build better futures in the region. Today for you, we thought to sort of skip the long talks. We thought of screening one of our documentary movies from our peace building program, Ordinary Heroes. But before we screen it, I'll give the floor to Benisa, our project assistant, who can tell you a little bit more about Ordinary Heroes, as that is sort of one very important puzzle of a big piece that is PCRC. And as she talks, I'll share a couple of links to our websites and work where you can find more information about that. After that, we can screen the movie and hopefully have a nice little discussion. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Tatjana. My name is Benisa, and I'm currently working as a project assistant at the Post-Conflict Research Center, or PCRC. And I will be introducing you the one of our, I would say, the most important peace building programs, and that is Ordinary Heroes, which was created by the Post-Conflict Research Center in 2010. And to facilitate reconciliation, interethnic tolerance, understanding, and restoration of intergroup relationships in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Western Balkans, and of course the world. As I said, it is a multimedia educational peace building program that utilizes stories of rescue and moral courage to promote tolerance, reconciliation, and interethnic cooperation. And the aim of this program is to present a new narrative of wartime events that shows a different side of the story, one that cuts across the ethnic spectrum and reaffirms our faith to humanity. In the last 10 years, the Ordinary Hero program was scaled up from a primary photography exhibition and youth conference to a large multimedia educational peace building program with several components. First one is multimedia programming, 2 photography exhibitions and 5 documentary movies we had. Then educational curricula, specialized youth workshops and innovative educational toolkit for teachers. And then community engagement, a youth-led storytelling competition and specialized multimedia platform. And the most important program results and impacts are like more than 5,000 regional youth engaged in the Ordinary Heroes educational programming. Then we have more than 250,000 regional citizens engaged through our program, like art-based exhibitions. Then our documentaries have been seen by over 1.5 million viewers across the Western Balkans and 400 million viewers worldwide through screenings at the Al Jazeera Balkans and United Nations Web TV. And then the Ordinary Heroes program was awarded first place in the United Nations Alliance of Civilizations, and there were groups in 2014 and 2015 Intercultural Innovation Award, and was a finalist in the Council of Europe's 2015 Diversity Challenge Award. It is currently featured as best practice for criminal peacebuilding activities in a toolkit developed by the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of the Council of Europe for 46 countries. And then the Ordinary Heroes program led to the establishment of the Balkan Discourse. It is also a PCRC's independent multimedia platform that provides young citizens, journalists, and activists in the Western Balkans with the means to publish their opinions, analyses, and impressions of relevant issues in the region. Also, Balkan Discourse, which I mentioned, was awarded in 2017 by the Intercultural Achievement Recognition Award by the Austrian Federal Ministry for Europe, Integration and Foreign Affairs. And I would say that this program is very flexible and replicable because the essential basis of rescue behavior, like pro-sociality and pluralism, are universal and non-circumscribed to national, cultural, religious, and other boundaries. And Ordinary Heroes were shown on 5 continents and replicated in Argentina, Ukraine, Rwanda, and Liberia. And that is something which I think is most important to think about our program, which you should know before the documentary will be screened.
Thank you, Benisa. Then yeah, we can now share my screen and play the movie. And in case you end up not being able to see or hear, just maybe write in the chat, because otherwise I won't be able to see. Just
the war in the Balkans turned one-time neighbors and friends into enemies. We bring the story of saving lives and help reconciliation.
Tatjana, I don't know about the others, but I can't hear anything.
Can you hear me when I talk?
Yes.
Okay, so maybe I need to switch. Let me just see. Okay.
The 1905. godine došli su u Mostar.
The war in the Balkans turned one-time neighbors and friends into enemies. We bring you the story of an ordinary man's courage, crossing racial barriers and armed lines to save lives and help reconciliation.
ulaskom Austro-Ugarske u Bosnu i Hercegovinu 1878. godine u Bosnu i Hercegovinu je došao veliki broj Jevreja iz Austro-Ugarske carevine. Moj pradjed Josef Mandelbaum došao je u Foč. Nakon toga 1905. godine došli su u Mostar. Ja i brat smo rođeni, ja sam rođen 46. brat 48. Majka je Sarajka Pincijeva, čija je kompletna familija ubijena u holokaustu. Kao predsjednik jevrejske opštine nisam znao uopšte šta se dešava, nisam očekivao, nisam znao šta će da bude sa Jevrejima. U 1992. godine nas je dočekala u Mostaru sviju nespremne. Jednostavno, prvo je rat počeo u Hrvatskoj, tako, bio u Hrvatskoj, bio građanski rat, u Hrvatskoj bio građanski rat, između onoga trenutka kad je Hrvatska donijela novi ustav po kome je rečeno ovo je zemlja katolika, odnosno Hrvata i ostali koji nisu katolici, tako. Ne samo zemlja katolika, a ne pravoslava muslimana i imate glas srpski?
Nema.
Kad je bilo se govorilo da će ne bude Bosna i Hercegovina, ovaj dio koji je Hrvat, i onda je to počeo progon muslimana ovdje u Mostaru.
Živjela sam 93. godine na istočnoj strani. To je lijeva obala Neretve. Tamo je bilo većinsko stanovništvo muslimansko. I prilikom rata sa Srbima, svi smo pobjegli ovamo. Da, na ovu stranu, to je zapadna strana, desna obala Neretve. Kad su se zavadili muslimani i Hrvati, zavadili se muslimani i Hrvati, svo muslimansko stanovništvo, neko protjerano, neko voljom, neko nevoljom, vratili su se na istočnu stranu. I ja sam se vratila u svoj stan.
Ja sam bio organizovao humanitarnu pomoć koji su mi dali i pakete koji su davali građani grada Mostara koji su živjeli na zapadnoj strani, a slali svojih u istočni dio grada, slali svojim prijateljima, rodbini, pojma nema koga, kako koga. Ja sam preko Staroga mosta prešao, može biti jedan od posljednjih ljudi preko Starog mosta da je prešao. U jeku, znači 30. maja 1994. godine. Kad su vidjeli da me ne mogu zaustaviti niti Mišići, niti jer sam imao jaku volju da pomognem ljudima i da ih izvodim. Podvesti mi auto, bombu u auto. I razjeo mi auto i auto. Prvo sam pomislio, gledaj, da sam bio u autu, ja bi poginuo. Znate.
I prošlo je jedno vrijeme, nema niti ko dolazi odande, niti ko ide ni tamo ni ovam. I jedan dan kad sam izišla u dvorište, Zoran! Šok sam doživjela, mislim prijatan šok, ali mislim to je kao da se Bog pojavi. Ne znam, eto, čini mi se da ne bi nikog na svijetu drugog poželjela da mi se pojavi pred očima nego Zorana. Ide Zoran, imao je zavijeno u papiru, pola kruha, ja se ukočila. Tad kad se Zoran pojavio, ako je on mogao proći, i rad će proći.
Kako su počeli kupiti po zgradama, onda su jedan dan došli po noći, sigurno bilo je silovanja i svega. Bio policijski sat, on izveo me iz zgrade, najstrašnije je bilo izaći iz zgrade. Sigurno svakom onom kojem ne volji, bez obzira koje je muško, žensko, koje je nacionalnosti, zaista jedan čovjek od kojih se treba puno stvari naučiti o humanosti.
Idemo na Herodrom gdje su 1993. godine bili zatvoreni veliki broj ljudi. U tom logoru su bili muslimani zatvorenici. To je 1993. godine kad oni su tu bili oko 10 mjeseci, 10-11 mjeseci su bili zatvoreni ljudi. Uspjevao sam doći do njih, donijeti pisma, donijeti sitne poklone, čokolada, cigarete. Kad ovo gledam, posjeća me na najteže trenutke koje je doživio. To je 1992. kad su Srbi odvođeni, 1993. kad su muslimani odvođeni. To je nešto što naš grad nije zaslužio da se tu njemu desi i da Mostar postane poznat i po tome da su u njemu bili ovakvi logori.
Se borimo za jedinstvenu Bosnu i Hercegovinu. Ja sam se borio godinama, vjerujte da ja nisam nacionalna manjina, ja sebe osjećam kao nacionalna manjina, ja sebe jednostavno osjećam kao Hercegovac jevrijske vjeroispovijesti. Ja jedem istu hranu kao što jedu svi ovdje, isto se oblačimo, isto se nosimo, isto se školujemo, razumijete, družimo, idemo na kulturne manifestacije.
Žalostna je stvar da mi ne možemo ići naprijed. Bez istine, a bez istine nema ni pomirenja. Toga da bi djeca znala šta se dešavalo u ovom našem gradu. Počite sa mnom da vidite ono čega se ljudi žele da se ne sjećaju, a treba da se sjećaju. Isto kao što ne smijemo zaboraviti da su svi mostovi u Mostaru srušeni.
Ja sam takav čovjek koji kad vidi neku nepravdu želi da pomogne čovjeku da tu nepravdu prevaziđe i da se daleko bolje osjeća. Znači, običan čovjek koji je spreman svakome da pomogne, kome može da pomogne.
There we go. Can you hear me again now? I think it's fine, yeah. So sometimes with these microphone switching, it's difficult. But yeah, so this was one of the episodes of Ordinary Heroes. This is a shorter cut. We have 4 more episodes that are about 30 minutes long. If anyone here would be interested in seeing more of these stories, you can contact us and we can either share the links or give you access to it. But basically, as you can see, Ordinary Heroes carries these different, very alternative views of the war that's behind us, of the 90s. And yeah, so this story comes from Mostar. We have several other stories that were sort of regionally. We have the stories from different parts of Bosnia, as these stories were pretty difficult to uncover, first of all, but then we realized that they did happen all around Bosnia and the region. And then, as Benisa was saying when she was explaining the Ordinary Heroes, like the whole project, and also has stories from Rwanda, Cambodia, and the Holocaust. It's just that those we weren't able to translate into a documentary movie, but we have them in a photographic exhibition in our archive. Really showing that something as maybe sometimes courage and this human bravery is a very universal trait and can be found both in times of peace and then especially in times of conflict. So I don't know if anyone has any questions for us. We'd be happy to chit chat.
I would maybe just ask, for example, I'm from Bosnia, and a lot of these stories, unfortunately, you can't hear about them in the news or in the newspaper. So do you see at some point soon that maybe our community will be more open to show some interest in these also, like in some way positive stories which happened in a very bad moment in our history?
Yeah, I mean, we've been developing Ordinary Heroes for over 10 years now. And whenever, as you said, when people are presented with these stories, they react really, really well. A lot of people are usually surprised that this was even a thing because you never think of them. And what we did is, as we developed Ordinary Heroes and we took these stories to local communities in Bosnia, we realized that in almost every community where you take it, and we have also a peace curricula sort of follow the stories with workshops for young people, and we would present the stories, and in almost every workshop someone would stand up and say, but in my community also there's this, and my father or my grandfather helped someone, or they were saved by someone. And so that's why we created a multimedia platform that's called Balkan Discourse. I'll link it below, where we're trying to, because not every story obviously can be put into a documentary movie or a bigger project, or that would be very ambitious if we tried to. So what we do have is Balkan Discourse. It's a multimedia platform where we give opportunities for young people to uncover these stories in their communities. And then we give them skills and resources to write about these stories. We then later take them over, edit them, translate them, so they're all available in Bosnian and in English. So to sort of also try sharing them a little bit with larger audiences. And then we've also sort of taken a step in addition to them uncovering these stories from the conflict that sometimes can be a little bit tricky to find. We know, because it was difficult for us as well. And sometimes a lot of these people who we consider heroes are not sometimes willing or sometimes don't even understand why they would have to be given this spotlight, because for them it was a very natural and normal thing, as you heard from this movie, to help someone in need. Like there's nothing special about that. So it takes time to make them realize really where the value and how big their act was. And so we opened this up to young people to uncover these type of stories, but also to think about morally courageous people today, people from their local communities that definitely, or in most cases, will not, as you said, be given any media coverage or not just media, but even communities. In communities, sort of that sort of visibility. So that's why we created a platform, and we give annual training to young people in BNH. That's sort of a basic journalistic and documentary photography training that gives them some of these basic skills, and that they go back to their communities and try to uncover stories of who they think is morally courageous in the community, who is doing something good that no one hears about, or who might need more support in doing the good work that they do. And so that is one sort of way that we've able to still keep going with the mission of Ordinary Heroes, but also sort of put it in more current times, and maybe with topics that are then again more common to youth here. And I can put in the website to Balkan Discourse as well for you guys. And if there's interest within the SFOD network or other people to, first of all, I think Balkan Discourse can be a great resource for also researchers and people, because we've sort of covered very different topics in the society today. But also if there's interest for someone to maybe write something or join the network, you may go ahead and check us out.
Well, okay, sorry. Just I want to make a question. I mean, like, I'm curious about how is the actual situation right now, the reconciliation part right now of considering that even this, how to say that, three nationality or like three communities, they have been affected indistinctly from the war. So like the war, it's a common, I'd say the tragedy of the war is the common ground of this, how to say that, these communities. So how this can affect, or how is proceeding now, the reconciliation on those communities?
Reconciliation is a tricky word, especially 30 years after the war here, because a lot of, we have sort of a whole new generation of people living who have not been touched by the war directly. So we realize, especially through our work, even though we do activities that are considered or can be considered reconciliation activities, we don't use the word as much anymore, because we realize that people have sort of a backlash from it, because they don't understand who do they need to reconcile with when they haven't been in war. But the question is really interesting, and it's also very complex. But the process right now, definitely the reconciliation process is stalled a lot by our current political leaders. And when I say current, I don't mean literally just this year. I mean in about the last 10 years of Bosnia's development, maybe even further. A lot of the process of transitional justice and reconciliation have been totally given to civil society. Like good 90% of that whole process, civil society has been carrying. The country still, so now 30 years since the beginning of the war, doesn't have a common sort of narrative or historically accepted narrative of what has happened, which left a lot of space for manipulation. We don't have a history curricula in the country that it's accepted in all schools. So there are schools in Bosnia where you might not learn at all about the war. For example, when I was, a student, we learned history up until the fall of the Berlin Wall, and that's it. In other parts of the country, you will learn maybe more subjective type of history. So sort of depending on the part of Bosnia where you come from and whether there's a majority of one ethnic group or the other in that part, you might learn more from sort of that perspective of their history. That is also very much influenced by the fact that Bosnia has a huge bureaucratic system. You know, we're very divided in terms of institutions, but paradoxically enough, we don't have a state institution or a state Ministry of Education. So there's not one Ministry of Education. So every basically level of government has its own Ministry of Education, meaning that then every ministry can direct how that history curricula can look. And obviously then in parts of Bosnia where maybe there's more unresolved grievances, or maybe where the ethnic group is, you know, only one, there will be no challenging to a history curriculum that might be very divisive, very, you know, open to basically one group that suffered and no one else, or vice versa. And I think for us as civil society workers, we are now just now seeing the consequences of everything that we've been trying to warn that it's happening, because now it's been like 30 years. We've had thousands of young people go through a school system where they haven't learned anything about their history of the 90s, basically, or they've learned very little, or they've learned very one-way narratives. And then they, you know, they're coming out in a society now with those type of opinions. And we've had not sort of issues, but challenges in working with young people, and they're becoming more and more obvious, especially in the last couple of years with the current political crisis and a lot of ethnic nationalism, where we're having young people in our activities, you know, asking us, why do we even need to talk about war? That's not important. You know, let's just talk about peace. And then we explain to them that you know, without one, you can't have the other, really. And without knowing what has happened to us, we don't know what we're preventing, and we don't know what type of peace we're guarding. It's becoming very, very challenging for them because they've never been exposed to this. And so, you know, when you're a young person of 20, 25, and you're for the first time hearing that maybe someone from your ethnic group has committed some heinous crimes, it's very difficult to deal with, and a lot of them are pushing back. And so, yeah, that is the kind of the situation, in very short, but our perspective of the situation in the Balkans. And that's where we're trying to incorporate stories like Ordinary Heroes and projects, and I can link down below if you're interested. We have started, because we're very aware that civil society is great and we're doing, we believe, good work. But until we get into schools and until we get more of these materials and stuff into schools, we really can't reach that many people, and we can't expect every single young person to want to be an activist and join an NGO. So we've created a teaching curriculum that's focused on peace education. And we are now trying to work directly with teachers, or hoping to work more directly with ministries of education to get some of these lessons into schools, and to finally start talking about some of these topics in schools, and to sort of cheat the system in that way and try to break the cycle that we've had going on for a while.
Thank you very much. I don't know if somebody has another question, but this is, I don't know, push me more other question.
Yeah.
One thing is that to be as much as proactive as possible in terms of nowadays, what do you think is your suggestion, or the milestone that we can put it for going in the right way for the best society? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Maybe I can tell you from my own experience how I've done it, because I don't think there's one universal way, and I think every one of us can contribute in some way. But I started this work, and like my volunteerism activities in civil society sector started 15 years ago, which means I was 13 when I started. So I started very early. But I was very much interested in my family history because I knew always that there was, you know, a background that was very heavily colored with war, but I didn't know what it was. So I dug up and made them tell me. And I came to learn that my father was actually a soldier in a paramilitary unit from the, I don't know if you know much, but there was Arkan's Tigers, which was a very horrible paramilitary unit from Serbia. My father was a part of those units, and they committed very, very horrible crimes in Bosnia, especially in the part where basically I was born. So that's sort of the north, sort of the northeast side. And so learning that history motivated me to try getting into something that's different. And so right now I'm doing a completely different, well, I'm dealing with the same topics, but my approach is very, very different. And my approach is much more and definitely peaceful. And I've decided to sort of use that family legacy for something that's different. And I'm sure that all of us in our youth or in our house or in schools have seen some injustices happen either to us or to other people. And I think the first step is stepping against that and then moving towards something else. Because that, you know, kind of discovering my own family history and then deciding to do something different really opened every other door for me then, because I found that motivation pretty early on. So maybe that, yeah, and I do believe that everyone in our lives have some sort of history of that or injustices. Sometimes it's just easier to let them go, but the harder part is like to get into it and realize it and live it and accept it, and then sort of have your own personal moment of growth. And then, yeah, so maybe that's sort of how it happened to me. And I'm going from that every person in this world can be morally courageous if they decide to do so. So, and definitely not just in Bosnia, in many communities, including, you know, from the very developed nations of the United States to I'm saying developed, there's much to do in communities. So. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I know somebody else, maybe some question or.
Maybe just some future plans that you have with Ordinary Heroes. Do you maybe see this project to be replicated in some other countries now which are unfortunately in war, or anything that we heard that you would like also to go into schools, so to but maybe something else that you're also planning to do?
Yeah, I think Ordinary Heroes have sort of taken over PCRC's work in different components, and we've been focusing on uncovering these amazing and courageous people of Bosnia in different spheres. And I can maybe share what our newest thing sort of is, or the most recent thing that's happening is we have been working quite a while with the Severance of Genocide Memorial Center. And we've been helping them because the Memorial Center is really the only state institution of memory that's concerning the 90s war. So they're the only really relevant institution that's you know, a state-based thing. We've been helping their capacity, especially in terms of art and documentaries and also archiving and stuff. Some of the skills that we have, we just want to share them. And then we've been very aware throughout the PCRC's history and our history in Bosnia of the role of very courageous women, especially mothers of Srebrenica and other women activists who were sort of, they never planned to be activists. They were made to be that because after the war, no one really took care of them, and they saw a lot of those injustices and wanted to do something different. And we have started a new project called Severance of Heroines, Heroine Srebrenice, which will actually start for this year for the 27th Srebrenica genocide commemoration. And I'll share links down below, but we're preparing a big art exhibition happening in Srebrenica using scarves and shawls that the mothers and other women in Bosnia use during prayer, but also, you know, decorative way to try to honor their legacy. We will also work more on documenting their role in Bosnia, because especially as women, they're very rural women. They come with no background in education, but they realize their way and path is going to be, you know, fight for justice and stuff. So I can link that down below, and that's one of the initiatives that we have. And if anyone really is interested, for example, and we're collecting donations of those scarves, and we are collecting them from anyone. So that, you know, doesn't mean you don't have to be a survivor or a victim or anything or an activist. If you'd like to join the initiative, you can. And maybe we can send it to all if people from your network would like to join. So that's one of the upcoming things that sort of indirectly Ordinary Heroes, but it's very much the goal of it in there. Yeah, and I mean, I think Amina has our contacts. If anyone else would like to, you know, if you have other questions about our work or you'd like to see more, hear more, we're definitely around to answer questions and be in touch.
Thank you. And yeah, for sure, something that's possible for us to share in our network. If you just send it to me, I can do it. So our network members are from everywhere, but we also have some who are in the Balkans. So I assume potentially they would and could participate, of course.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And yeah, maybe if anybody has another question or something. Or a comment. I can maybe just say that I really liked in the movie how he said that he's Herzegovinian, but as well Jewish. So I think that's something to aim for.
Yeah, Zoran was a great man. He unfortunately died a few years back, and we were really, that's another part of the role of Ordinary Heroes, was to really document these stories, because a lot of these people are dying as well, of old age mostly, and if we, you know, don't record it, no one will. So we were very happy that Zoran was kind enough to share his story with us. Yeah, and to honor that legacy.
Okay, then if there are no more questions, then maybe Benisa or Tatjana, if you want to have some closing words, and then we can also finish this digital talk.
Yeah. No, I want to thank you all, and I know this will be screened on later on YouTube and stuff, so we're around. Thank you so much for the attention, and thank you to Aspad for organizing everything. It was a pleasure. Benisa, you can go ahead as well.
Okay, I would also like to thank you all for being here and joining us for this, I would say, like digital talk and the screening of one of, I would say, the most important documentaries and from our most important peace building program. So I don't know, we stay in touch, and for any questions, we are here, Tatjana, as well as me and PCRC team. So thank you once again.